My name is Marissa Tawney Thaler, and I wrote and illustrated the book Get That Grit. And today I wanted to read my book to you and also talk about the idea of grit and how it applies to us. I'm really excited to read this to you, but before we get going, I wanted to check something. How many of you have heard the term growth mindset? Maybe at school this year or last year, maybe at home from mom or dad, or maybe in a book. If you've never heard of growth mindset, that's okay. Basically, growth mindset is this idea that we as humans can grow our brains. It means that nobody is born smart or not smart. Nobody is born creative or not creative, or good at math or not good at math. It means that we can grow our brains and be better at anything. So, for example, if I'm a struggling reader right now, it means that I don't always have to be a struggling reader. I can work hard, grow my brain, and get better at reading. For example, if I'm going to sit down at a piano and play a song for the very first time, am I going to get all the right notes and play that song perfectly? No, of course not. It's probably not going to sound very good. I'm probably going to hit a lot of wrong notes. It's probably going to be pretty rough. But if I practice long enough, if I work hard enough, I will learn to play that song. And that's how our brain works. So the knowledge that we can grow our brain is called growth mindset. And the thing that keeps us from giving up is called grit. So let's go ahead and read this book together, and we'll talk about what grit is and what it means for us. Have you ever had a problem that seemed too huge to handle? As we work through this, I want you to picture something in your brain that right now is frustrating to you, something that you have to work hard to do. Maybe it's focusing with our school right now. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's a chore that's really frustrating to you. I want you to have that in your brain as we read through this, and you're going to be thinking about this thing as we work through the idea of grit. The shoe that just won't tie. The bike you just can't ride. Have you ever just wanted to say, I can't, it's too hard, or I quit? Who's ever felt that way? I have. I think we all have. Well, I've got a feeling that you could use some grit. What's grit? You've never heard of it? Grit is the courage to try again and confidence to do your best. Having grit isn't being perfect, but it is striving for excellence. I want to pause and point out, on the medal and on this little silly statue, it doesn't say first place, number one, the best. It says courage and confidence. Grit isn't about being the best out of everybody. It's being your best. So the next time you feel like you can't handle it, scrunch up your face, make up your mind, nod your head, and get that grit. Before we move on, I wanted to practice this together because these 3 steps might help us get better with grit. The first step is to scrunch up your face. Now, when you scrunch up your face, what I want you to be doing is keeping that idea in your mind of what you are struggling with. So put yourself in the moment that you want to give up. Scrunch up your face and feel that frustration of getting stuck in a situation. Make up your mind. If you see over here, he's saying some positive things to himself. He says, you've got this, you can do it, don't stop now. When you make up your mind, I want you to point to your head and I want you to think of something that you can say to yourself that will make you want to try again. Maybe it's, don't stop now, you've got this. Something that is positive for you to move on and try again. And then lastly, nod your head. When you nod your head, that's you making up your mind that you're not going to quit. That's you making the decision to try it again. So scrunch up your face, think about that frustration, point to your head. You're going to make up your mind and think something positive. Say it out loud if you need to. You've got this. Nod your head. This is the moment you're making that decision, and go ahead and say it with me. Get that grit. That was great. That was great. Let's try it again. And if you feel like throwing in the towel, that means quitting. Scrunch up your face. Scrunch it up. Make up your mind. You're pointing to your head. He's saying, stick with it. Keep going. Try again. Nod your head. You're making that decision. Say it with me. Get that grit. When that plate of broccoli is just too high, get that grit. And when that room is just too dark, get that grit. When that book is just too long, get that grit. And when you get good at persevering through the little things, you can get through the big things too. Persevering means trying again and again. Going to a new school can be really scary. How many of you have gone to a new school? I have a few times. It's always a little bit scary. Sticking up for a friend or telling the truth can be hard too. But you know what to do. Get that grit. So some of the problems in the beginning of the book, like not being able to tie your shoe or not being able to ride your bike, these are maybe struggles that you don't have anymore. Maybe you used to struggle with them and now that you're older you don't. But the fact is that struggles don't go away no matter how old you get. Ask any adult, we still struggle with things all the time. So I want you to think of your heroes, and maybe they are athletes. A couple of my heroes are Simone Biles, who has won 4 Olympic gold medals for gymnastics. She's incredible. Or Megan Rapinoe, who was the lead scorer for the 2019 FIFA World Cup. Maybe your hero is an author, like J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, or Shel Silverstein, who wrote books like The Giving Tree or Where the Sidewalk Ends. Maybe your heroes are singers or dancers or artists or scientists, but one thing that they all have in common, every one of our heroes has grit. Athletes get injured all the time. Authors get their books turned down by publishers all the time. Movie stars get turned down for movie roles all the time. And if they stopped when it got hard, we would never know their names. We know who they are and we look up to them because they had grit and they pushed through when it got tough. So right now, we're in kind of a crazy place, aren't we? If you're like me, we're staying home right now to keep other people safe, to keep ourselves safe, to keep other people healthy and make sure that the virus doesn't spread around and that we can get back to normal as quickly as possible. And it's the right thing to do, but it's really hard. I'm personally so disappointed that I couldn't come to your schools. I had a lot of different schools that I was supposed to go and meet students and read my book and talk to them and shake hands, and maybe you're one of those kids that I missed out meeting. And it's hard right now. I think it's hard for everybody. But what we need to remember is that just like learning to read or getting better at math or playing a song on the piano, we can learn to persevere through this crazy time too. It might look a little bit different. I know for school, it looks very different right now. A lot of teachers are having to change the entire way that they teach so that they can still teach you while you're at home. You're in different places and your teacher is still teaching you. It's so different. Maybe it's a little bit frustrating because it's hard to pay attention, it's hard to focus, it's tricky to figure out the technology, and time at home feels so different than time at school. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel annoyed. It's okay to feel maybe a little bit sad, like you're missing your friends and your teacher and missing how normal things used to feel. But we can make sure that we're using this as an opportunity to grow your grit skills. Work hard at learning to push through when it gets tricky. If you don't want to sit down and do your school, get some grit and do it anyway. Work really hard and be so proud of yourself when you make improvements, when you get better at something. If you have a little brother or a little sister or a big brother or big sister that are frustrating you, you can use grit to grow patience and to be kind to each other. We can use grit in all sorts of ways. So until things even out, I want you to really practice and try really hard at finding the places that you can use grit to grow. The last thing that I wanted to do is share with you a poem from Shel Silverstein. I talked about him earlier as one of my heroes. He wrote an amazing poem that just goes hand in hand with this idea of grit and never giving up. So let me read it to you now. It's called Listen to the Mustn'ts. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. And that's always been true, and that will never stop being true. If you decide not to give up, if you make up your mind to try again, you can do anything, and you will be so great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you later.